Watermelon and feta salad is one of my summertime obsessions. It's so refreshing on a hot summer day, and the sweet and salty flavor profile is definitely my kind of salad. As I was enjoying one the other day, I thought to myself, how could I make this even more refreshing? And the answer, of course, is to turn it into a cocktail. For today's video, I will show you how I transformed my watermelon and feta salad into milk punch. Instead of using cow's milk like I did in my non-alcoholic milk punch, or coconut milk like I did in my vegan milk punch, I'm going to be using goat's milk. The other flavorings for this punch will include watermelon juice and fresh spearmint tea. For the acid, I will be using red wine vinegar, and for the base spirit, I'm going to be making an extra virgin olive oil flavored vodka by using a technique called fat washing. If you're interested in learning more about these techniques, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. All of my videos include 1 or 2 technical processes for cocktail making. Since the vodka is going to take the longest to prepare, I'd like to start that process first. I'm going to be using 1 cup of vodka for this recipe. I usually make a smaller batch of infusions like these for my home bar, but I plan on using this vodka to improve upon my last salad cocktail, the caprese-ish cocktail. So I'm going to be making a bit extra. To my blender, I'm adding 1 cup of vodka and 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Now I'll just very quickly blend on low for a few seconds. A whisk works here too, but since I'm going to be using the blender later on, I figured I'd use it. Basically, I'm trying to rapidly extract the flavor of the olive oil into the vodka. I do not, however, want the fat. So the next step is to pour this into a container, put a top on, and put it in the freezer where the oil will solidify on top, and I'll be able to extract the olive oil flavored vodka. I'm letting this sit in the freezer overnight to solidify. For the next step, I'm going to make the watermelon juice. First, I'll cut the watermelon in half. I'm using one of the mini watermelons for this because I only need 2 cups of juice for this recipe. Once it's cut in half, I'll just scoop out the flesh using an ice cream scoop and put it directly into my blender. Now I'll just put on the lid and blend this for a few seconds until it's pureed. To extract the juice, I'm going to pour the puree into my mixing glass through a mesh sieve. While that's draining, I'm going to make the mint tea. I think fresh mint works best for this recipe, as the mint tea that you get in tea bags have a much stronger flavor. The watermelon is kind of the star of this drink, so I don't want the mint to overpower it. When making fresh spearmint tea, I like to brew it in a vessel with a lid, so that the more delicate flavor and scent compounds get trapped inside instead of dissipating. I'm using a large handful of mint, about 17 leaves. To the mint, I'm going to add 1.5 cups of boiling water. This is going to steep for 5 minutes, as I don't want too strong a flavor. Then I'll transfer it to a glass for our next step. Now that all the other components are made, we can start making the milk punch. To my saucepan, I'm going to pour in 2 cups of goat's milk, then turn the heat on low. Once I start to see steam rising from the milk, I'll begin whisking to avoid scalding the milk. Once the goat's milk begins to froth a bit, I'm going to turn off the heat and add an ounce of red wine vinegar. The acid is going to break the curds from the whey. The whey is going to become part of the cocktail, and the curds will act as a filter to remove any pigment as well as smooth out any bitter or astringent flavors. Once the acid has done its job, we can go ahead and pour in the mint tea and 2 cups of watermelon juice. Now I'll let this rest at room temperature to cool completely before transferring it to the fridge for an hour. Resting the punch will lead to a more balanced and homogeneous tasting cocktail. The curds will help to temper the flavor from the vinegar and any other astringent flavors. Once the punch has rested, it's time to clarify. I'll be using my least favorite nut milk bag to strain the punch. The holes are a bit large, so I will likely have to do a few more passes because of it. The good part about this bag is that it's easier to see the curd filter and where exactly I'm pouring the punch. I'm only 5 feet tall, so this helps me out quite a bit. After several passes, it was evident that this was never going to get clear this way. This nut milk bag had too much of an open stitch to hold the curds. To fix this problem, I'm going to have to do another milk break. I'm going to heat up 1 cup of goat's milk in my saucepan, and once it begins to steam and froth while whisking, I'm going to turn off the heat and add a small amount of vinegar to break the curds from the whey. Then let it cool off. Once it's cooled off a bit, I'm going to pour it into a new nut milk bag and wait for the whey to filter through. Since I don't want to add any more goat's milk to the punch, I'm going to set it aside for another use. You can use whey in shaking cocktails for a bit of foam and a rich texture, or you can use it to make pickles. Now that the whey has been strained off, I'll go ahead and begin to pour the cloudy milk punch through. After the punch is clear, I'm going to store it in my milk carton for easier pouring. Before we can make the cocktail, I'm going to get the olive oil wash vodka from the freezer. You'll see that the olive oil has risen to the top of the vodka and hardened into a disc on top. Once I remove the olive oil cap, I'll strain the vodka through a coffee filter to remove any bits of solidified oil. Now I'll just bottle it and set it aside before building the cocktail. If you prefer an alcohol-free punch, you can drink this as is with a bar spoon of saline and a ½ ounce of simple syrup over a large ice cube. But I'm excited to try this olive oil wash vodka, so I'll be adding that to mine. To my mixing glass, I'm going to add a ½ ounce of simple syrup, followed by an 1.5 ounces of the watermelon Feta milk punch. Next, I'll add an ounce of the olive oil vodka. Lastly, I'm going to add a bar spoon of saline solution for that salty Feta taste. I'll give this a 30-second stir before pouring it into my rocks glass over a large ice cube. For garnish, I'm going to add a slice of watermelon and some mint. I have to say, this is exceedingly refreshing. It would be so easy to drink several of these back to back on a hot summer day. It's the perfect punch for a barbecue or picnic. Everything works so well together, and none of the flavors overwhelm each other, which I was a bit worried about as these are all such delicate flavors to begin with. It really does taste remarkably like the salad. I really recommend giving this punch a try. If you do, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for stopping by, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Cheers and have a great week.